Hi guys, it's Tammy and this is Blooming Brushes Sunflower Field. So if you pop on while we're live, just let me know. It doesn't matter to me if you watch these live or you come back and watch them as a replay. I do try to pull it up on my iPad just in case there's any questions that happen while we are doing this. I apologize if you happen to catch a message, that said I was going to be doing this earlier today. We were supposed to have to pick up Ryan right at 7, and I thought there was no way I could do this and be there, but you know what? Things worked out. They really did. So let's get started. First and foremost, welcome to the people who have joined us. This is our live class, or our project that we do each month. The way the Blooming Brushes has been going is the first week we kind of discuss or figure out, or I dictate what flower we're going to do. Week 2, I have some type of technique that will help you with the project that we're going to do. Week 3 is the project itself. And week 4, I've kind of said is show and tell and Q&A. It's my hope that we'll get to a point within the community that we're going to want to show what we've been working on, whether it's a completed piece or maybe we've just mastered slip slapping the foreground. I mean, it doesn't have to be a completed piece. And then I'm going to give you an opportunity. I'll either do it as a Q&A where if you have any questions, let me know and I can come back and just answer them. Do that kind of pre-recorded, or we can even do it as a Zoom or something like that. We're a small group, we're growing. Thank you for joining us. I think it's gonna be great fun. And I want to help you help your flowers get better and come up with different ways to express them, both with different styles, techniques, and also working on different surfaces. So this is the project we're doing tonight. If you watched the technique video, I did a technique video kind of showing you a bit of the sky, which is what we'll start with. And then again, that the background, even the sunflowers, are not precise. They're loosely Monet-ish. They're a lot of slip-slappy color, and that's kind of the goal of this particular piece. Every piece hopefully is going to be a little different. When we come up with the next month, you guys certainly have, I always love to hear what you would like to do, but maybe we want to do something big and bold. Maybe we want to work something on a particular surface. Those are the kind of things that I love to hear your input on. So I am going to turn this down. I need to make sure I've got some paper towels. I do, look at it. I do. So paper towels here. I decided I'm going to paint my piece that I'm going to show you tonight on a round door hanger. It doesn't matter what the piece is. It really doesn't. The technique is going to be the same. So whether I'm doing it on canvas or if I'm just working in a mixed media pad, I really recommend mixed media pads for practicing because it's great. Because let's just say this turns out super, super fabulous. They're fabulous in that they are perforated, so it's easy to tear them out. They're heavy enough paper that you can easily frame them. So consider that for some of your practice needs. We're gonna start by doing a sky. I'm gonna put you down. I'm gonna flip me upside down. Not you, me. La, la, la. Okay. And my check is always to put something that says something to see if I've got it the right way, and I don't. So that should say Hot Mess Express. If you happen to follow anything I did today, you know that is a very, very true statement. Okay. You do not have to have a tracer for this. I know tracers make a lot of people more comfortable, and that's fine. I did the little video thing of how I use my Sketch Me tracers and make them bigger. I hope that helped. And I will always tell you or make it much more available to you if it is something you absolutely need to do. If I knew we were going to paint a sunflower and this was the exact size of the center, either would give you that dimension, or I would make sure you had a pattern that you could trace that center if that was going to impact the final result of our painting. One thing I really like to recommend to you is a pencil and or a chalk pencil. This is just a charcoal white. You can get these probably even at Walmart, but I know you can get them at Michael's. I know you can get them at Hobby Lobby. And sometimes that might be easier than actually trying to transfer a pattern. Okay, I'm going to move these items off my way. That's just my paper plate. That might have been my original plan for the night. This is a 18-inch round plywood door hanger. It's not very thick, but it's great for a door hanger. I just end up adding a couple holes and hang it with some wire or some rope, or in some cases I make them two-sided. I'm not sure this is going to be two-sided yet or not. Flip over. La la la. Okay. All right. I know I saw somebody watching. So, looking at our example, what I showed you the other day was how to do the sky first. And the sky doesn't need to look exactly like mine. And skies vary, skies vary depending on what you're actually trying to achieve. In this particular case, we have a sun, but we still see some of the blue sky, and it's already starting to probably become sunset because you're getting some of the pinks in the background. The colors I'm going to use for this are white. Hello, Cam. Thank you for letting me know you're here. That's awesome. I'm going to be using white, yellow. I believe the yellow I used was golden yellow. The colors I tend to use most often are DecoArt. It does not mean that's what you have to use. A yellow will work just fine. And then I'm going to use a blue. I like the shade of this blue, but it's too deep. So that's why the white comes into play, because I use a lot of white with this Blue Harbor to make it the lighter color. Hello, Nancy. So that is the blue that you're going to see more below. And then on the top part of it, I pick up a little color. Hello, Becky. Nice to see you. Coral blush. Okay, now if you don't have these exact colors, just think of a yellow. Let's start with a white, a yellow, a blue, and even a red or a pink. This is a little more peachy color, but those, just something in those shades, okay? They don't have to be the exact colors. Nothing I do has to be the exact color. If it has to be the exact color, I'm going to tell you. I promise you that. Okay. So if I look at this as our example, it's about half and half. If you would like more room for bigger sunflowers, just plant on a bigger grassy area. Your sky literally could be just a quarter of the amount up. That is up to you to decide, okay? So I'm going to kind of keep this here, grab a plate. I always recommend that you kind of watch this through once and then come back and paint it at your own speed. But if you're one that wants to paint right along with me, hey, Godspeed, let's do this. Excuse me, had to get something to drink. I just realized I did not grab a large brush, which is what I'm going to need for the sky. If you watched the video I showed you, my brush I used was bigger than this. This is kind of a scruffy brush I'm going to use for our trees. So one quick minute, I'm going to grab a 3/4 or 1 inch brush. These are just flat brushes. Yikes. I'm going to kick a few things out of my way. What I like to do to start for my skies, I like to make sure I have some white. I make sure I have some of the blue. I have some of the yellow. For those of you who have painted with me a little bit, you already know I am not a neat painter, okay? I waste paint. I waste space on my palette, but that's okay. That's okay. We'll get by. And I'm going to grab a little coral blush off to the side as well. When I paint on a canvas, I try to wrap whatever I'm painting around the side. I do that just in case I'm not going to frame it and I'm going to sell it. That way it looks a little more finished. You do not have to do that. When I am doing something like a door hanger that I'm going to work on right now, I probably am not going to wrap my color around that thin edge. I'll probably come back and use just a solid color on the edge. All right, let's use this. So I'm going to start by pulling a tiny bit of the blue and just giving myself a basic idea of how high I want my sky to be. So I'm going to say about there, okay? It's not a straight line, doesn't need to be, it's okay. That is just telling me that that's pretty much where I want my sky to be, and this is going to be my ground where I'm going to have my sunflowers. Okay, so I didn't wash my brush. It's got a little bit of blue. I'm going to dab it up, dab it on a paper towel. I'm going to pick up a bunch of white, and I'm going to liberally, meaning lots of, put a good amount of white paint in this area. Acrylic paint dries relatively quickly, so I might need to just dip into my water. I'm still just dealing with white. I'm going to pick up a little bit of the yellow color, and I'm going to start about the middle, and I'm going to start walking it back and forth. I'm going to pick up a little bit of water, a little more of the white, and I'm going to pick up a little blue, tap it on my paper towel, so I have this blue that is blending into my yellow, but it's getting a little darker as I'm getting toward that line that I've created. And as I go back into my yellow, I'm going to be a little lighter. Still have a dirty brush. I'm going to pick up a little more yellow so I'm a little stronger in the middle of my sky. And then while I have that color wet on my brush, I'm going to go into my coral color. I didn't pick out a ton, just a little bit of it, okay? And I'm going to start higher and work into my yellow. Now I can barely see that, which means I just need to add more color. So there's coral more up at the top, coral blush, and I'm just lightly brushing that color. And it's okay even if I pull a little bit of that into my blue. And I just need to decide for me how strong I want that coral. If I need to wash my brush, I'm going to make sure I dry it really well. If I want to make my yellow a little stronger in the middle. And again, back and forth, back and forth. That's what helps have those very blended colors. And I might even pick up a tiny bit of just white on the corner of my brush. I'm being a little more concerned about this edge than I am on this edge, because this edge is going to have some greens that come back on it. Take a minute, take a breath, and just look at those colors and see if those are appealing to you. Do you think you might want something a little darker toward the horizon? This is the same color, or the same blue, I'm sorry. And I've just made it a little stronger against my horizon. And when I'm blending those colors up on top, I want them to be a little soft, so I want to use light pressure. Okay. I'm kind of happy with my sky. I think if anything, rinsing my brush, drying my brush, I might want a little bit, picking up just a little bit of white on the corner. I might want to just streak a little white here and there, and then blend it a little bit. That was just for me. And it really didn't make that much of a difference. Honestly, it didn't. So, big keys with blending color for skies is enough paint and or enough moisture. So in this case, when I had the paint color I wanted, what I did is I came back and dipped my brush in water to help make it flow a little more. I'm gonna use this just because the quick reference. There's more blue here than there is there. Do I want to come back and add more blue? That is kind of a personal preference. I kind of think I might want to, because I think I want it to be a little bluer. So this is just picking up the blue and white, but mostly blue, and kind of figuring out where my horizon line is. That just makes it a little stronger color for here. Okay, I'm rinsing the brush. We're gonna start putting in this side tree-ish area. And it's a tree-ish area, okay? I can't tell you these are maple trees or emerald trees or anything else. So I'm gonna pick up a brown. Probably need to get burn umber too. Right now, this is just dark chocolate. And I'm going to use a skinny brush, whether that is a round or a liner. That's kind of up to you and the size of the piece you're doing. This is actually a liner. And I'm just going to, from about where my horizon is, going to start pulling up some very random, loose lines that could be interpreted as branches for my trees. They're nothing more than just quick little ideas of where branches might be, okay? We can always come back and define them a little more. I want to start putting in some color there. So let's start with our dark Hauser green. My greens for most flowers are Hauser green, light, medium, and dark. I do that kind of to make it simple, but also because they really blend well with a lot of colors that we're going to work with. I'm going to go ahead and give myself quite a bit of a puddle on this because I know I'm going to be using it in just a minute to help with our foreground. That's what I'm going to be using up here. While I'm putting paint on my plate, I'm going to put in the Hauser green medium. And I'm going to put in some Hauser green light too, just so I have them there. Okay, to add this very fluffy foliage, you can either use something like a round pouncer brush, or just as effective is a well-used, well-loved, I don't like to say abused, but okay, a brush that no longer is quite as tight as it might have been at one point. So this is an older brush that I have that I would not try to float with this brush. I probably wouldn't even try to base coat with it, but there's always a purpose for it. So doesn't matter which brush you use. I'm going to use my little Well Love brush. I'm going to dip into my green. I'm going to take most of that off onto my plate and then actually tap even onto my paper towel a little bit, because I want this to be more of a dry brush. I can always add more. It's hard to take off. So I'm just going to use the brush straight up and down, and I'm just going to start pouncing with the idea of I'm doing the illusion of fluffy leaves within the branches. And I'm going to go all the way. Let me scooch this a touch. And I'm going to do this until I run out of paint. And the more I do it, the lighter it's going to get. So I might need to reload my brush. I'm tapping off on my plate. I'm just going to show you, this is the same technique. This is that fluffy brush. So I've just tapped in, tapped off, tapped onto my paper plate. It just gives it, in this case, a little more of a rounded look. If you want more dimension in that particular part of your piece, you can go and use a little bit of the medium green. I wouldn't clean your brush. I would just go medium green, light green, just to kind of give a little bit more of a dimension. Okay? I can always come back and add more, but that gives me at least a place marker for the trees on that side. All right. Just like the next step is going to give me a place marker for my horizon. So I'm going to go ahead and use this Pouncy brush. I could use either one. Here's the dark green. And I'm going to, right at my horizon line, tap this color. And it doesn't have to be straight. I can get a little interesting. Oops, I've run out of room. Picking up a little more. I'm still staying in my dark. But just by moving my tapping up and down a little bit, I have this kind of illusion that there are some trees in our background. Okay, y'all with me so far? Take a deep breath. It's all good, okay? Okay, so we have all this space in front of us. What are we going to do with that? Well, we're going to start a very technical term, slip slapping some colors, okay? It doesn't matter if you use this fluffy brush, if you use the Well Love brush that I started with, or if you pick up a round or a flat brush. Seriously, Tammy? Just a flat brush. All you're going to do is start slip slapping your dark, your medium, and your light greens to start filling in this space. It takes a fair amount of paint. My green, darker green is about gone. I have more paint. It's okay. So I'm just going to use the little bit of dark green I have left because I know that's all I'm doing is just slip slapping this color here and there. Now the reason I am doing this technique on this is we want to have some variation in our background, but I don't want you to have to painstakingly paint each and every leaf that we're going to do. I'm grabbing more paint. I definitely have an issue with this paint. We're going to have to open this one up and hope there's not. Oh, there is. Okay. You guys ever notice that you get goobers or boogers or whatever you call them in your paint? The main reason you get them is when you're done, when you're painting and you've painted with this color and you set it down and you let it dry and you don't put the cover on, that is the biggest culprit for causing things like, I'm trying to find just I'm trying. Just give me a sec. Ew. Because air gets in there and just formulates those things. So close your covers on your paints. All right, so I've not cleaned my brush, even though I've gone back and forth in color. And this is a birch plywood sign. So it actually is soaking up a lot of color. And there's another goober. So I can dip into my water to help my paint move a little more freely. But this part is not anything technical. The reason I'm going this way and that way, instead of just base coating it all in, is it gives me texture and it helps the light reflect differently throughout this area of the painting. Okay, I just ended up picking up a little bit of another color. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. All right, so I'm working on my darks, my mediums, my lights, and that's all I'm doing is slip slapping back and forth. And this is going to take you a little while, okay? So if this wasn't Facebook, we could be playing some wonderful music. Facebook will shut me down if I play music. Did you know that Facebook does not allow us to play music while we are teaching? Even in a private group. Some of us may have learned that lesson the hard way. I'm not saying who. Okay. And don't worry if when you're doing this, it takes a lot of paint. It does. It just really does. I've gone through my puddles of paint, and I don't have everything covered on this side, and I haven't even touched that side. So, grab one more paint. Make a note, Tammy needs dark color green. I'm going to put more of the medium. I'm sorry, I've got my brush in my mouth. When you have an opportunity to have a piece like this, have fun with that. Because not everything is this free-flowing, okay? So embrace the fact that you get to just slip-slap this paint around and know that there's no right or wrong way to do it, and enjoy the process. And also know that there are no mistakes. There just are no mistakes. There's a couple design changes along the way, and we can come back and add and subtract paint. When Monet painted, not that I'm Monet or any of us are Monet, he worked in lots of little strokes. So these aren't so much little strokes. These are just kind of like, okay, let's get this done. So if I wanted this to go even faster, I would move to a bigger flat brush, like a 3/4 inch brush. But I kind of like, you're going to see, I'm going to pull this up for you in a second. When I get done with this first coat, minus the big goobers, just by going back and forth and using these colors and back and forth and slip slapping, I get a lot of texture underneath that really makes a nice base for my sunflower field. Because when you look with your naked eye onto a distant field, you don't see the individual leaves. You just kind of see blotches of color. A little more down here I need to do. Good. And I will tell you, I still have a couple spots that are not completely covered. I'm going to show you this, back to this first. And where you probably didn't realize it before, but there's just a ton of splotches of color, okay? It's not, you're hard pressed to come back and find a leaf. Now we're gonna come back and add a couple accent leaves, yes. But the background itself is just very, very splotchy colors. So even if you look at the piece as it is right now, it has some dimension. Our sky certainly has some variation. Our foreground doesn't look flat. So we've already accomplished that. I mean, that's kind of a big deal, guys. It really is. I want you to make sure you're giving yourselves a lot of credit and a lot of pats on the back for what you do achieve. Now, when acrylic paint is shiny, it is wet. And that is not the time you want to be adding a pattern, if you're going to be transferring a pattern, or times you're going to be wanting to add your highlighted colors. So in this case, you know, where we have our yellows, we probably don't want to be messing around at all right now with those yellow colors. Okay. I said to someone who asked if they needed a pattern, if you ever need a pattern, absolutely need a pattern to make it work, I'm going to tell you. In a piece like this, and I'm going to show you the original that I did in my multimedia journal, they're not the same. Let's even look at the flowers for a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Big flowers I can see on this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, that was a fluke. Okay, really, that was a fluke. I don't think I planned for there to be the exact same number. And the ones in the background, definitely not. But what we can do while we are waiting for this to completely dry is we can decide about, oh, sorry, time out. So when you're at a point where you're pretty happy with your background, go ahead and either wash out or just at least get your brushes in water. You don't want acrylic paint to dry on your brushes. It'll ruin your brushes, and that's enough said. It'll ruin your brushes. Okay. We know I still have some wet spots, but that's okay, okay? I'm gonna go in and grab a little bit of brown. I know I'm gonna have to come back and go with a darker brown at some point, but right now, this dark chocolate is fine. Any brown. Use a round, use a flat, use whatever you're comfortable with just to sort of create your shape of your flowers. So I have this one in front of me that had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I can use that kind of as a guide, but all I'm really doing is picking up that brown. So I know there's one about here, right? And I know I want one about here that's a little bigger, and it's more of a flattened oval. And it looks like I've got like this cluster of 3 in here. 1, 2, 3. And then there's this bigger one right next to it. if I blend a little bit with my background color, it's okay, because this is not my end all to end all, okay? And there looks like there's a couple up here, one about here, and one maybe here. And then it looks like I've got about 3 of them closer down here. 1, 2, 3. Hey, these center shapes can and will change. These are placeholders. These are giving me an idea of where my sunflowers might hang out. I don't want there to be gobs of paint, but I want to make sure that I've got enough of a coverage to give me an idea, okay? All I'm doing is rinsing my brush and drying it off. Okay. I know that's wet, and in the absolutely perfect world, I could go and sip a half a glass of wine and they would dry and come back and do this, but reality is most of us want to get going, want to get started, want to keep going with our painting. So those centers are not finished. Those are just our beginning. We're going to start with using a deeper value of a yellow. This is antique gold. If you don't have something like antique gold, you can always use a yellow, like a primary yellow, and just add a dot of brown to it, just to give you more of that, you know, golden versus bright yellow color. So again, this is a lot more of a style of Monet-ish. So Monet was not worried about every petal being perfect. He wanted more of an illusion, an idea of flowers, texture, colors, and by using a darker shade first, what we're doing is we're creating a little bit of a shadow in some of our sunflowers, and then we're able to come back with brighter colors to make the top petals show up more. I hope that makes a little sense, okay? So I'm gonna set my paper down. Oops, not sure what I did. Still have the canvas here. You can use a flat brush and you can use a round brush. I'm gonna show you both. Here's a round brush. So when I go into a round brush, I roll my paint and I pull. I roll my paint and I pull. Now, depending on how good of quality or how much you've used it or abused it, will kind of determine how well that round keeps a shape, okay? So I'm gonna start on this big flower here, and I'm just gonna start at my center, and I'm gonna push down and I'm gonna pull up. I'm gonna push down and I'm gonna pull up and twist. Push down, pull up and twist. And I'm gonna go all the way around my flower until I kind of start running out of paint. So I'm just pushing down at the center, push and twist, push and twist, push and twist. Pushing and twisting isn't working for you? Start at the center and kind of color book your shape out. It's going to be a little fatter at the bottom. And you're going to make it skinnier as it goes toward the outer edge of the flower. I may need to use a second coat on that. I may not. That's something you will determine what works best for you. These are my back petals, so I'm not as concerned that they're as solid, but I still want there to be some of these back petals, even if they're a little fluffy. I'm not worried if they're the exact length of each other, especially when I'm working with my back pedal, because I just want there to be some color here. If I look at this guy, I can tell that I've got some petals that are going to come back in toward it. So I'm just going to worry about my outer petals. I'm still just working with antique gold. I'm starting to get my center, and I'm just kind of pulling out and being a little free and easy. I did run into a little bit of my green there, not worried. Gonna reload into my antique gold and do some back petals here on these side ones. If you happen to pick up a little bit of the brown from your center, don't worry, just make it part of the plan. You are the masterpiece of your painting. Nobody is going to be able to do your painting like you can. I can show you ways to achieve an idea, but your hand and your brush are going to be the master of your painting. So I'm going to come back here. I'm starting at the middle, pushing and pulling out. There's absolutely no wrong way to paint. There's lots of ways to make design changes. And I hope you make a lot of them on your way or through your way. So I'm looking back between this and the, oh, we didn't do any petals here. So let's just do the front petals. So I'm doing the antique gold. Decide if some of my original ones might need a second coat, and that's gonna, a lot of that is determined by how heavy your base coat is and how much pressure you are applying when you are doing your strokes on your flowers. So here and there, I'm coming back and adding a couple coats. All right. I need to rinse my brush and take a second, see where we're at. So, do you have any questions so far? You know, most of the time questions come when we start doing the next step, because right now just kind of, it looks a little blobbish. This one, for example, we have some petals that come back in toward. I'm not going to do those until we add the brighter yellow, okay? Just because they would just end up getting covered up. So I am realizing I'm going to need a darker, yeah, maybe not. I think I can do it with black. I think we're good. We're good. All right, I'm going to come in with a lighter yellow, and in my case, that is golden yellow. I already have a puddle of it, and I'm going to go back over all those petals I just did. I'm going to use the same brush. So this, for me, is just a round brush. Oops. Uh-oh. This is a round brush that has a problem. It likes to suck up into the ferrule. So I have to find me another round brush. I should throw that brush away. I won't, but I should. Good enough. Round brush. So I'm going to go back into our sunflowers. And again, I'm going to roll my brush and pull it out. Roll my brush and pull it out. That gives me a bit of a tip on my round brush. And I am going to kind of go back over almost on top, but not quite, of where I did all these petals. This color is not going to cover as well as the antique gold, so I know I may have to come back and either do it again, or I might choose to make the golden yellow and a touch of white and mix them together, and that might help with the coverage. Adding the white helps make your color a little more opaque. I know I'm still going to have to give this another coat, but that white helped cover it a lot more. La, la, la. I'm going to do that everywhere I just did, so I am going to add a little bit of white to my golden yellow, and either right next to, sometimes even on top of my antique gold. I'm letting my edges be very feathery. I'm not worried if they are perfect points. With the lighter color, a little bit of white. Starting my centers, just pulling these little strokes out where I'm pushing and lifting, pushing and lifting. It's always fun when I'm doing lives with you guys or someone else, and that is the end of our caregivers day, and we get to hear we're coming with Ryan, and sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's not, but we just go with the flow. So I've got this yellow and white. I'm just pulling it. I'm letting some of my antique gold flowers show. Flower petals show, sorry. I like the fluffiness of the edges of this for this particular piece. If I was painting just a straight one flower sunflower, I probably would want my edges on my petals to be a little more confined and maybe a little more perfect. There is no perfect. I'm done here and add a little of these here too. I know I gotta come back and mess with my centers. So here's your key, that white mixed with your yellows helps it cover in a little more opaque way. And the amount that you add the white to can definitely change how your flowers come to play, okay? Okay. Before I come back and do a little more with my petals, all I'm doing right now is just rinsing my brown brush. And I'm gonna come in with the same brown we had, which was the dark chocolate. You could use burnt umber for this as well, and a tiny bit of black. You can do this with a small scruffy brush, or you can even do it with your little round. So here's my brown, here's my black. So I mix this brown black color. And I'm going to lightly tap around where that center is meeting my petals. And maybe just a touch in the center as well. We haven't done our top flowers and top petals in this guy yet. So I'm just able to add that little bit of black brown to the upper part of those petals. It's just a couple things. One, it helps almost outline your center, but it also helps soften where those petals came into the center. I'm using this with a very, very light touch. I am not pounding down. I am just touch, 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 touch. A very, very little touch. How's your green? Dark. You can go back and add just a touch more here and there if there are spots that you don't feel are as pronounced as you'd like, or you can even pick up a tiny bit of black to create even more of a definition. And the same is true up in your horizon line. Stick with the straight green or come back with a little green and a little black and touch in here. Move up and down and you can create another layer of shading. Gives that other dimension. All right, let's go back to our sunflowers. I'm not sure what happened to this sunflower. This sunflower needs a little TLC. It got a little aggressive with some yellow at some point, so I'm just tapping in that dark chocolate which was there already. Oops, 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 oops. All right, so let's go over here on this little guy. And we're going to take the same colors, that antique gold and that golden yellow, but we're going to start at the base of its center and we're going to pull in. So it kind of looks like those little petals are coming back in toward that center. And then, so we know that that flower is attached to something, I'm going to pick up a little bit of our dark green and I'm going to just very lightly, almost like a half circle, create the bottom part of that flower. And I'm going to use the tip of my brown brush and draw down where that flower might have gone. Okay. Likewise, dark green, I'm going to decide where this flower might have come and all the way across. So this one might have come this way. This one might have come. And I'm going to barely see this in my green. But I know it's there and it'll help me when I go to put some leaves in a few minutes of where these flowers came from. So I've got these really light basic lines. Okay, going back to my flowers for a moment. Round brush, any of the yellows or a combination of, I'm going to put a couple little dots in my backfield. Nothing fancy, splot dots. Okay. Within the splot dots, you're going to either use brown or brown plus black or even straight black if you need to just put a little dot in the center. Oops, I got some color here. Let's get rid of that. Of these back sunflowers. So either the brown or the brown black or even the straight black, just a tiny little bit, so they appear to be our 4 flowers. Just rinsed my brush. I'm going to come back to the petals, and this is where we're going to add just those pops of stronger yellow, or if you even need to change to something like a saffron yellow that's just a little orangier yellow. I'm not sure how to say that the right way. Or if it's using a little yellow, more yellow in your white. Sorry guys, let me get this color out. So see, saffron yellow, oops, close, is pretty orangey bright. So I'm going to use that. I'm just going to come back here and there and add it as a touch of color in some of my sunflowers. Doesn't have to be everywhere. Again, I'm not worried about absolutely perfect shapes of petals here. This is a little more Monet-ish, impressionistic painting. I certainly like adding this brightness as an element. Even though the paint is not coming out very well. All right. Adding white is another way to help brighten spots of your painting. Okay, we have our sunflowers nearly done. We're going to come in with some black. Black. What did I do? Black. Okay. And we're just going to add a few dots. You can use it with the tip of your liner brush, or you can use a stylus. And just add just a few little dots next to the petals, and even a couple in the middle. Be careful that you do not put your hands in your wet dots. We just have our leaves to finish and we will be done. So I'm just adding some dots along where my center meets my petals on my sunflowers. And a few in the middle. I have just recently started adding a few pieces to Closet Traders in Gurnee, not Gurnee, hello, Gray's Lake. So it's always fun to be able to offer them some, especially some Gray's Lake, oh my Lord, Gray's Lake specific items. So if you are a Gray's Lake fan or nearby, make sure you're enjoying this coming weekend's festivities, which is Gray's Lake Summer Days. They've got some great bands playing both Friday and Saturday night. Almost done dotting my centers. I'm going to come back and just add a couple more prominent leaves off of the stems. Can I hold it up? Yes, okay. So I'm going to hold it up this way first. So look at that. You can tell each of my petals are not perfect. You can tell how much my background has started to blend and how it just adds different shades of interest. Tip it a touch. Still have my horizon and my summer sky. Okay, I hope that helped. So now all I want to do is come back and add just a few stronger flecks of leaves. You can do this with a round brush or you can do this with a flat brush. It's really what you're most comfortable with. I'm going to do it with something like this. And again, there is no right way to do this. This is just kind of looking, okay, so this is a little lighter area. Oh, these are a little darker areas. I might want to choose to pick just my dark green and come in here and just add a couple, sit down, slide and turn for a leaf. Sit down, slide and turn for a leaf. I might want to mix that with a different color. But it's all pretty much the same as I'm sitting it down, pushing, sliding, turning, and lifting. That's how I'm creating these leaves. I'm pushing down, I'm sliding, and I'm twisting. And they can be part of the actual sunflower stem, or they can just kind of be hanging out here and there in the grassy area too. I'm setting my brush down, pushing, sliding, twisting, and lifting. I want to make sure at the bottom of my piece that whether I have leaves or not, that I have a few pieces of grass between the dark, medium, and light. They're just pulling everything together. Oops, I'm not sure where the white came from, but it's okay, we'll make it work. There are no mistakes, there's only design changes, so go with it, okay? So I'm pretty happy with my field of sunflowers and my sky above it, I could let it dry. Big point, let it dry. And I could add a family name to it. I could use something like Gather Here with Grateful Hearts as kind of like a center design, skipping all this part but just using the letters. Gather Here with a Grateful Heart I think would be a really appropriate thing to have on a door hanger. And the other one that is in this, particular set, I'm so sorry, is Be Thankful Always. And that's kind of where I was kind of headed for this, because I think that just is enough within that the sky, but still brings it together with all the sunflowers. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. Make sure it's not too wet. Pretty sure my sky is pretty dry. I'm using just the corners here as an eyeball. Be thankful always. Okay, so I've just got to think about this really quickly. So I need a lighter color here, but I need a darker color here. So I need to kind of think of what color is going to best work all the way through that. Holding this down. I think black will still show up. White would show up. Let's use a buttermilk. So buttermilk is a little less than the white highlights in my flowers, but I think it'll do just fine. And if it doesn't, it's just paint. We can paint over it. So I'm going to grab an Essential stencil brush. I put out this buttermilk color. I'm going to swirl it into here, and I'm going to grab a paper towel and take most of it off. Double check my, I think that looks pretty good. If you don't have stencils and you wanted to say something, you could very much just print out what you want. Oh, where did that blue come from? We don't want blue. We do not want blue. Hang on. Hang tight. I think we're okay. What was I saying? You could always print the words out on a Word document or whatever the program you have that you use is, and just transfer it using charcoal or Choco paint to get it transferred to your system. I'm just trying to pick up a little more white. Be thankful always. My S got a little blue, but I can fix that. I'm not too worried about it. I think it looks pretty darn good. Hey, did you guys enjoy this slightly looser way of painting the sunflowers and allowing yourself to just have a little grace in the process? I hope you did. It's been a wicked 72 hours for me. I've not had migraines in a very, very long time, and the last couple days of dealing with them has really certainly challenged my ability. Loved it, can't wait to try it. I'm so glad you guys decided to take the opportunity to watch. It is fun. I'd say the first and foremost thing is to take a deep breath, ready? And relax and just enjoy the process. This is a little more relaxed, a little more haphazardly, and just make the most of it and realize that this is not a perfection piece. This is a lot of just slapping the background behind it, which gave it a lot of dimension. And the same even with those sunflowers. We started at the center and we pulled the color out. We weren't worried about them being perfect petal shapes. And in the end, they look like they are the stars of this sunflower field. All right, have any questions, by all means, put them here. You can always reach out to me by email, cheerstocreativity@gmail.com, or you are free to text me. It is my private phone number. I do not have a text service yet. So when you're texting this, you're texting me directly. It is 847-738-8944. Thank you so much. I so appreciate you being part of Blooming Brushes. I cannot wait to see how we bloom and grow together. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great evening, and we will talk with you very soon, okay? Let me flip you up this way really quick, just so you know that I still am here, okay? Take care. Have fun. Bye-bye.